Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Lisa?
How do I sound?
Oh, you sound a little growly. Are you doing okay?
I'm a little growly. Yeah. This is my radio voice, as Chris
Oh,
would call it.
yes. Well, you know what? There's something to be said about that growly voice that's just very soothing for a lot of people.
Is it soothing? So when I'm
Yes,
sick, I'm soothing people with my voice.
exactly. You know what I mean? Like people just love that, just that little growl. I
Yeah.
love that as for singers, especially
Yes.
like
Yeah.
Teddy Swims is one of my favorite artists right now because he's got that nice little like growly touch to his
Oh,
voice and it's just so soulful, you know?
it's so soulful, but he's got so much control over his voice, which is one of the most beautiful things to listen to when a singer is just like, I am fully on top of what I'm doing right now. I'm not just randomly doing a bunch of trills and, runs. I know
Exactly.
exactly how this is going to sound, and here it comes. Prepare yourselves.
Yeah, and it is stunningly, brilliantly
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
love, love, love his music right now.
Yeah. He's very, very talented. Oh,
Yes.
so I've been working really hard for the last few minutes before we started recording to try to keep the dogs in one particular place so that I could let Chris sleep in the other room because it's 8 o'clock in the morning and he's didn't go to bed till late. And they keep, I'll put them in there. Okay, the dogs are snoozing with Chris. I'll just close the door most of the way. And then I come in here and I close this door most of the way. And then I hear boom, and they open the door and then boom, they boom in here. And I'm like, he's gonna hear me. He's gonna wake up. I just decide
Oh,
where you're gonna be and stay there. But
aw,
now Ford is whining at the door to get back out to go see Chris again. So it's
aw.
like no
You
happy
can't win.
medium. Nope, I can't win.
Can't win.
So
Oh,
hopefully hopefully it'll be done soon and I can just be like, go lie down. Anyway, how are you doing? What
I'm
are you
doing
up to these
well.
days?
Yeah, you know what? Just enjoying summer finally. We finally got some great weather.
Oh
It's
yeah.
so wonderful to get outside and enjoy it all. It's, yeah,
Yeah, it's
amazing.
beautiful weather.
Mhm.
I'm loving it. Yeah,
Yes.
we had a lovely road trip and went into
Good.
the interior, and I kind of thought that it was just hot because that's where we were. And then we came back home and it was like, oh wow, this house is stifling. We need to turn the air conditioners on, bring them out and plug them in. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
keeping it nice and cool in here, but wow, it was like walking into a sauna.
Oh,
At 10
yeah.
o'clock at night, we got home.
Yes, not comfortable, but
Quite a
hopefully your
surprise.
house cools off quickly and
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
good.
surrounded by beautiful trees as well, so hopefully that helps protect you guys a little bit, you
It's
know.
very, very hot in here in the summer. So
Mm.
we have a big air conditioner that we hook up to the window in the dining room that cools down the main living area. And then we have one for our bedroom as well.
Oh,
So
good plan.
yeah, no air conditioning in this house. It was built too early.
Well, it was back in the days when not a lot of houses really needed air conditioning, right? Climate change is being a thing, right?
But that is
Global
true.
warming is a real thing. And
Apparently.
yeah, and
Because
so
we're
now,
warm.
yeah, I mean, previously it was like maybe you had like a handful of days the whole year that you might have needed air conditioning. Now it's like weeks on end of that heat dome that seems to stay
A
in.
lot.
So,
It's a lot. It's a
yeah.
lot. But
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get on top of it. So,
Uh,
well, I'm really excited about this guest.
Same here. Same here. I have known her for a little while. I followed her when she was still living on the West Coast, actually, and have always just adored what she puts out in terms of content and how open and honest she is all the time. She's a real breath of fresh air, and what a creative, wonderful baker she is as well. So
Yeah.
I cannot wait to welcome Isabella to Baking Scraps.
Yes, welcome, Isabella. Thank you for joining us here
Yes.
today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. This
Of
is such an
course.
exciting venture for you two.
Yeah, we're really enjoying it. It's been kind of a crazy year, but in a
Yes, it
really
has
good
been.
way. So,
That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
so
how's
much
your
fun.
podcast going?
It's good. I mean, we just launched it a few weeks ago, and it's been really fun to do something with my husband. We always have these long um thoughtful conversations. And I was like, this should be on a podcast because I feel like other parents or couples or people our age can relate to a lot of things that we talk about, the topics that we talk about.
Definitely.
And yeah, so like I said, I think it's just been really fun being able to do something with him,
Mhm.
and kind of connect in a different way, which has been
Mhm.
a lot of fun.
That
That's
is very
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just listening to it and I was like, well, this is pretty good. It's, relevant, right? I mean, I'm past the child rearing
Yeah.
age, but my husband and I have only been married for 5 years. So it's like this weird sort of dichotomy, like we don't have the young children part of it, but we definitely have the marriage and communication part. That's the first episode. That's the one I'm listening to right now.
Oh,
So
right on. Right on.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
and I mean,
oh, never go
that's
to bed angry.
totally. And we just recorded another episode yesterday, and the topic that we covered is traveling without your spouse.
Oh,
And I feel like that is like it can be a bit of a hot button
Yeah,
subject.
absolutely.
And so we cover those things, and then there's another one just kind of within that episode. We talk about how do you foster each other's personal growth, and how do you grow with your partner. And I feel like that's another really big question, especially like my husband and I have been married for almost 20 years, and so we literally grew up together. We were babies when we were together, and we had kids really, really young. And so that really changed the dynamic of our relationship. And so I feel like, again, it's kind of neat to be connecting with other people in this way. Cause I mean, yeah, you talk about relationship things, or you kind of, you cover, those little like surface topics, but the stuff that we're getting into and will be getting into are a little bit deeper. And I feel like that kind of opens up that conversation to be had with your partner or whoever. So
Yeah.
it's really cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. I can't imagine trying to do a podcast with my husband.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times where I'll like pause it and be like, where are you going with this? Or we both get caught in these moments where we're umming, and I'm like, okay, no, there's too many ums. People are going to go crazy. And also, I'm also the editor of the podcast. So I'm sure, as you know, it is really difficult
Yeah.
and time consuming when you're trying to bleep out all the ums or cut out all the ums,
Hmm.
or the likes. I find I say the word like a lot. And so I'm like, oh my God, like,
And
oh
you
my
really
God.
notice it more. Yeah.
You do, because when you're listening to yourself, you're just like, this is so irritating to listen to. Nobody's going to listen
No,
to this.
But
but
it's
you know what I
real.
think? I mean, I think when we first started our podcast, we were doing the same thing. We were going, like, I wasn't, Lisa was doing all the editing and making sure, the conversation was cleaner and crisper and all that kind of stuff, taking out all of those pauses. And it was so much work. And
Mhm.
B, I think it ended up like kind of chopping up maybe part of the conversation and
Totally.
it didn't come like was too polished almost.
Yeah,
And
like not organic
I
enough.
don't think it
yeah.
was too
Yeah.
polished.
Well, yeah,
Too
far from
choppy,
polished,
maybe, but not
especially in
too
the early
polished.
days. But you know
No,
what I mean? Like
I totally feel you.
we tried to make it so perfect,
Yeah.
right? And with that, I think the imperfections that we have with our conversations, with our chats that we have with everybody, I think it just flows like maybe a little bit nicer. And to each their own, I think it's going to come down to what you guys
Mhm.
want or need out of what you're doing. Well,
For sure.
but we've gotten really great positive feedback when we did make that change. And now we just let the conversation go. And the only editing that we're doing is if we really go maybe a little off
We
base on
say something
something,
wrong.
or a secret is spilled that maybe shouldn't be, because we interview a lot of guests that had been on previous baking shows. So some things
Right.
that they can't speak about, but sometimes they come out in conversation. So we got to go back and kind of, take things
Take
out.
those things
That's
out.
really the editing that we're
Yeah.
doing now.
I
So
Well,
just
that's
got
good.
lazy. That's what it is as well.
Well,
I
you
just
know
got
what?
lazy.
I totally feel you on that. And so we don't do video, which I feel
Mhm.
like might be something that will have to come down the road, because I think a lot of people really enjoy watching as opposed to just listening.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit of the both. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll have, if there is a podcast that does have video, I will pop on the video and watch it. But a lot
Yeah.
of times I am working or doing something at the same time. So I feel like then you're not having FOMO if you can't see anything. You
For
know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah.
yeah,
You're
fair,
just
fair.
listening.
For sure.
But for us, so we're recording with microphones. And so it's kind of making sure that his mic isn't picking up my mic and vice versa. And sometimes if I'm having to like splice things and shift audio over, you can hear, audio from him and you're trying to like time it properly. But, I'm sure there's probably a very more sophisticated way of editing that I just am not aware of at the moment. Or maybe I'm just too, I'm really trying to do this at like at low cost, as low cost as possible. So
100%.
I don't really want to, unless or until this podcast really takes off or we're getting a lot of listeners where I feel like it's worth investing. This is really just a for fun thing for us.
Yeah, 100%. And that's where we're at too.
Yeah.
Let's do it as inexpensively as possible. We put out a little bit of extra like for microphones, and I actually needed a new computer because I didn't have one. I didn't even have a laptop that worked. So
gotcha.
But yeah, I use it for all kinds of things, right?
Exactly. So I feel like same with us. Like I got myself an audio interface and then, 2 mics. And that was, I was Googling and, looking up which one was, the best value for the lowest price. And, maybe one of the things we say, we're like, oh, it'd be nice if we had one of those big arms that you could just have it in front of you. Cause sometimes holding that microphone, there's like that cord jiggle sound and I'm editing that out and stuff.
Yes.
But you know what? Again, it's fun, and I'm enjoying it. We're enjoying it, and I like kudos to you guys because you've been doing this for a little while now. So, I'm just sort of scratching the surface as to how labor intensive it is to put together a podcast. But overall, it's fun.
It's a really fun thing for us too. Yeah, we've been really enjoying it. So I'll continue listening to you. So don't let that freak you out or anything.
Thank you.
Now here's the face of one of your listeners.
Open to feedback as always.
For sure. Oh, dude, there we go.
Right on.
So let's back up a little bit. So we did start recording immediately before you came on. So just so you know, we have been recording.
Yes, I saw the notification. So I'm
okay. Oh yeah, it gives a notification.
It does.
How handy.
It does.
So let's back up a little bit and tell us a little bit about you, and so our listeners can know a little bit about you if they haven't seen you on Instagram or heard your podcast.
Sure.
Yeah, give us a rundown.
Okay, well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jzabela, but I'm probably best known as the Cake Mama. I've been known to be called that just like in the streets, the Cake Mama. Hi. Just yesterday, my son and my husband were just down in downtown Kelowna having a little gelato, and somebody walked by and was like, "Oh, hi, Cake Mama, how's it going?" So it's just become a moniker, which I really enjoy. And I have been baking essentially on and off for the last almost 19 years, if you can believe it. I've been doing it ever since my eldest was born. I was on maternity leave at that time. And I got into baking. I mean, I was always a baker with my mom or baker with my grandma, that baking and so on. And then a real good friend of mine, she has a very big Italian family. She was like, "Hey, I'm making one of my cousin's wedding cakes. Would you like to come and help me decorate this cake?" And I was like, "Heck, sure. I have no idea what I'm doing, but why not?" And so that's kind of the inception of it all. I just discovered I had this, it brought me joy to bake and decorate. And so from that point, her and I kind of just started doing cakes for friends and family. She kind of decided that it wasn't something she wanted to take on full time. It was really a hobby for her, but for me, I was kind of feeling like, oh, I feel like I could really do this as a job. So I started taking on more like outside client orders. So people, friends of friends and so on and so forth. And it was really a learning curve at that time because back then, in 2006, 7-ish, there was no Facebook, YouTube. We weren't learning, there's no Instagram. You're not learning how to do things, from a video. You're learning it from buying a Wilton cake book or
that you're trying to figure out what they mean by those instructions.
Exactly. Like you have no idea, and you're going, how does this ball turn into a person's head? And you're just kind of like missing the space in between what happens there. So it was a lot of trial and error. So I would always kind of volunteer to do somebody's cake or somebody's cupcakes or somebody's cookies just to kind of get the practice. And then essentially just kind of between children, when things got busy, if I had to go back to work, I sort of I scaled back, what I was taking on. But it was truly in those early days, it was kind of just more of a hobby, like a fun hobby to do. And then I would say probably around 2015, which was when my son was born. So my last baby, I got into doing craft shows, like artisan markets, things like that. Like I loved going to those just as a consumer. And
Mhm.
it never occurred to me that that could be something that I could do at all.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I started selling my treats at craft shows and things like that. And it was really great to connect with the community that way. So many amazing people who love to support local, which I thought was fantastic. And then there was a period of time where my day job. So at the time I was working in pharmacy, so I was working at the hospital, and that job became really demanding because I was working weekends. And so
Mm.
it's really difficult to request time off, especially when you work in a hospital, those things are booked in advance. Like, I was wanting to book, markets, months and months in advance. And I was kind of like trying to do the best that I could to coordinate that with my schedule. And then it got to the point where I was so busy baking wise, like just doing these craft shows, that I decided to step back from my permanent position at the hospital and I went
Wow.
down to casual because the money just made sense at the time. Now, gosh, I wish I could go back to those days because boy, it's just not like that these days anymore. But anyhow, and then in 2019 we moved to Kelowna, and that was a huge change. It meant that I could no longer go back to my day job, if you will, because the
Right.
schedule just didn't work out with having kids, not really having a support system out here. And so I was just still kind of on and offing it, trying to build my community here. And then obviously the pandemic hit, which was insane. And that
Yeah.
just kind of like, it just changed everything. I kind of questioned whether or not I was even going to continue
Mm.
baking, because it just like I had to stop essentially because there was just no way of really doing it or connecting with the community in that way. And then when things started opening up again, it made it a little bit easier to be able to do that and start doing craft shows and things like that again. And then in 2023, I built my commercial kitchen, which I'm currently sitting in, which is so exciting. That was kind of like my ultimate dream. I knew that I didn't necessarily want to open up a storefront just because I knew that in doing that, that would potentially remove me from being the creator. And then I'd have to be boss lady,
Yeah.
and HR and customer service and all of those things, which, we still wear those many, many hats, even just as somebody who works solo. But I felt like I could still have the flexibility of being able to care for my family. I still have some downtime if I wanted it, and then just essentially be as busy as I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of where we're at now, which is now I'm kind of working on collecting wholesale because I can do wholesale now, which is really
Mhm.
exciting. I've taken a bit of a step back from doing markets because as I say, I feel like the economy's changed a little bit and people are spending differently. So it's kind of trying to be inventive on how to connect with the community, but also still have a profitable business.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sort of
Um,
important, I would say.
yeah, right. So yeah, and I mean that's essentially where we're at now, and so it's great because I'm starting to build up wholesale accounts. I still do custom orders, which is great. Still trying to connect with the community in different ways, and yeah, it's been a fun, very very long journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but a good one. I mean, through all of the peaks and valleys along the way, you've been able to really redefine who you are and what you're doing and how you navigate through it all. It's very inspiring, Isabella.
Aw, thank you. And actually, even just to add to that layer, I went from we went from being omnivores to going plant-based. And so
Right.
Right.
therefore the business shifted to being fully plant-based in 2017. And so that was, a bit of a challenge being like, okay, everything I knew recipe-wise, I had to literally start over from scratch.
Yes,
So now
100%. Because
I had the assistance of social media and the internet to help me out.
That's so
huge
true.
help.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Huge. Because
Yeah.
baking without eggs, baking without dairy, all of that stuff, that's a big challenge.
It is a big challenge. And I mean, now, like fast forward to now, it's so easy. Like I couldn't see myself ever going back the other direction just because I'm so used to making things the way that I do now.
Yeah.
And, like I can make macarons, which is insane. That was, I remember learning how to make those in the first place when I was using egg whites and how, you had to stand on one foot and,
Yep.
say a prayer and make sure that your oven's the good temperature and all those kinds of things in order to make, something happen in the oven. And now that I've kind of fast forward to being able to make those without using egg whites, which is
Mhm.
crazy, and have people who have dietary issues be able to come and enjoy
Mm,
desserts the way that they remember that they
mhm.
used to. So
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that transition. What was there a specific catalyst that made you and your family decide to go from being omnivores to fully transitioning to plant-based? And was it a overnight thing? You just decided to do the full cut. This is what we are doing now, or was it a slow transition? Tell us about that.
yeah, so I kind of just started doing a little bit of, I think like I don't want to say research because I feel like everybody says, oh, I do research and everybody's a, Facebook University researcher, right? But I started being essentially, I would say, really influenced by, the people that I followed on Instagram. Um, kind of like the content that was being introduced to me. It inspired me to do a little bit more digging, to be like, okay, well, where does my food come from, and how does, who does that impact? How does it impact the planet? And I watched a few documentaries, and it wasn't an overnight thing, but it kind of just got me thinking, like, oh, I'm like, this doesn't feel right for me. This doesn't feel right for me. And one of the other things too is I was noticing we're just at a point in our lives with, maybe it was the fact that we're just so busy all the time, but you know, I would do a freezer clean out and be like, oh my gosh, we literally have like 30 chicken breasts in here that are beyond, past the point of being able to salvage. And I'm just throwing them in the trash. I'm wasting
Yeah.
so much. So waste was a big thing for us in our family. Um, and nobody, including myself, loved leftover meat. It was just like
Mm.
not some, I don't even really know who really likes leftover. I mean, it's fresh is better, right? Like, if you can make a nice barbecue chicken breast, it's better on day one, not on like day three, right?
Yeah.
Fair.
So that's kind of like what the sort of the catalyst, if you will. And so I talked to my husband about it, and I was just kind of like, how do you feel about reducing our consumption of animal products? And he was kind of like, yeah, like, I sure, like, if that's something that interests you, like, i'm I'm on board, if you will, like, I'm willing to explore it. And then, because we arrived at the decision differently. So I was more about like the animal side, just like animal cruelty, and how animals are treated in factory farms and things like that. My husband, on the other hand, sort of looked at it from like the human side, where he watched a documentary, I think it was on CBC, and it was about how migrant workers typically work in like chicken farms and like animal processing plants. And the level of care for these people is not really that great. And I mean, this was like, I can't speak to what that looks like in Canada. I believe it was a documentary based in the US, but he's just kind of like, there's people on the other side of this too that have to do this job, and some of them come from countries where they come here for the opportunity to make good money and provide for their families back home. And so he was just kind of like, okay, that ethical point was something that really stuck out for him. So he was like, okay, well, why don't we just, let's give it a go and see how we do. So it wasn't really an overnight thing. It was more like, okay, well, let's obviously use up what we have.
Mhm.
And then it was things like, oh, if we go out to a restaurant, at that time there weren't really a lot of plant-based options at restaurants. So we would be
Very
like,
true.
okay, well, maybe we're just eating eating omnivore like at restaurants, but we'll eat plant-based at home. And then we just slowly started replacing things in our home. So things like mayonnaise, or certain sauces, or like a yogurt or whatever. We would just slowly start trying out different brands to see if there was one that we liked. Cheese and milk were two really big things where we were like, and in 2017, like, the options were horrible. Now it's like
Yeah.
there's so many different options. So I'm glad we stuck it out. But yeah, there's a point where we just stopped eating cheese because we're like, everything's gross and we just don't want to eat cheese. So we just stopped eating cheese. And then, like, for dairy-free milk, we did a fun like blind taste test where I was like, okay, try, here's oat milk, here's soy milk, here's almond milk, and so on. And I'd let the kids taste it and be like, well, which ones do you guys like? And everybody kind of arrived at soy milk, which was great because that's well fortified, and it's very similar to fortified dairy. So that was kind of a great thing, and very accessible. It was available at that time. Yeah, and so we just kind of just continued on this, and we talked to the kids about it. We just said, hey, we sort of, this is kind of how we feel about how animals end up on our plate. Not without being too graphic. I mean, a lot of them know, like, my kids are older now, so they have a better understanding. But essentially we just said, hey, we want to reduce our consumption. And they kind of just were on board with it. It's not like it was kind of like a, oh my gosh, like I can't have pepperoni pizza anymore. It was just kind of like they were just kind of okay with it. And we didn't really feel like we were forcing them to do it. It was more just like, let me like just see how you feel. You know, if we were
Yeah.
at family gatherings, it was just like, you know, have a slice of cake, have whatever's being offered. And it was just kind of this gradual thing where they just kind of slowly stopped wanting or enjoying that kind of food. And yeah, and so we're basically 8 years strong now, which is crazy, but
It's impressive.
That
I
is
mean,
really
giving up cheese in itself, I think is
you know, and now it's funny because I think I've just my body's so not used to eating dairy anymore that if I have it by accident, it's actually just not worth enjoying it. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, you know what would be so great? A greasy, cheesy pizza.
mm,
And one time I bless my friend's heart, she ordered pizza for, you know, like we were having a little get together and she ordered pizza. She's like, I made it explicitly, you know, clear this pizza had to have vegan cheese on it. And I was eating and I was like, oh, you know, like this is really good vegan cheese. Like, wow, this is amazing. And then like not half an hour later, my stomach was just like
oh
doing somersaults. It was just unhappy. So I know now that it's not even worth the temptation, if you will,
yeah.
or that like, oh, you know, like I just remember how dairy cheese was. It's like I know what the repercussions are of that. So I just don't bother with it anymore.
Yeah.
But you know, with my kids, like I just feel like there will come a point where you know they'll I know that they'll always they know what to expect when they come home for dinner
Yeah.
or come home or what will be stocked in our fridge whether they decide to continue this path later on in their life. um it's something that I have to accept that that may change, and that's you know it's not my life to live, you know, it's
Yeah.
their life.
It's hard as a parent though to be able to just be like, all right, it's your choice. All these different things, not just what they're eating, but
Absolutely, absolutely. It's hard when you know that you've sort of like you know, raised them a certain way or just kind of like, you know, had these discussions with them. But you know what? At the same time, I realize that, you know, life is too short to fixate on things that just don't align with you anymore. So, you know, I'm not going to hold a grudge to my kids if they choose not to continue that lifestyle. But they, like I say, they'll know that, you know, if we're coming, if they're grown and they're making dinner, well, let's just hope that when they invite us, they know that there has to be a plant-based option. Or, you know, they know
I'm
when they
sure they
come
would
home.
be respectful of that.
I
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think too, it's like we're also teaching them the building blocks and like teaching them how to cook and how to prepare things. So it's like when they go out in life, you know, I think plant-based will always be part of their life because it's something they're so used to. It might be something that they always fall back on. You know, maybe they go out to restaurants, they may, you know, venture out and do something different there. But I think there's a foundation there. And yeah, I mean, all I can do is really hope for the best, but I also recognize that they're not me. So
Yeah.
No, that's totally fair, and that's a great way, a great attitude and perspective on your expectations, managing your expectations
yeah.
around what they could potentially do when they're out and about. I mean, like you alluded to before, I mean, the great thing these days is that there are so many fantastic options for vegan products, plant-based products in the grocery store. Most restaurants are very much aware that that is something that they need to cater to as
Mhm.
well. So I think the options are so much easily they're just more readily available these days, which makes it probably a little bit easier for them as they get on with their lives and fly the coop and
Yeah,
have their own life. That they're going to be
absolutely.
able to make the decisions that make sense for them and their ultimate families.
I agree. I totally agree. And like I say, I think as long as you know they know where my husband and I stand, and you know what they can expect if they're coming home for dinner or coming to stay with us. Like that's what's at our home. But like I can't be. I mean, who knows? They could you know end up dating somebody who isn't plant based, and I think
Mhm.
that's probably more common than not. You know, and so I can't expect somebody to be like, oh, you know, go vegan or we can't be together.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we all have differences and we learn to get along with despite those. And
Yeah,
you know, I feel like that's kind of just that's just something that is a reality, and you know something that you know I at my age and at my children's age is something that I really do have to consider and like you say manage my expectations when it comes to that.
Yeah,
very
definitely.
cool.
One of my friends grew up kosher, and so she could not have milk with meat and she couldn't have bacon and all that. And when she moved out, the first thing she did was run out and get herself a bacon double cheeseburger. She did not do very well with that. Her
Hey,
body was like, no, thank you.
oh geez. Well, you never know until you try, you know?
That's
You
true.
never know until you try.
It's
Yeah.
just it's one of those things like it's what you start putting when you start putting those natural things into your body when you're not having all the, artificial sweeteners, artificial I mean, I'm talking for myself because I've had a couple of different times when I'm on different journeys where right now I'm not allowed to have any grains and I'm not allowed to have any dairy. And so you're finding the alternatives, but your
Mhm.
body is used to eating a certain way and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, you start craving it. But if you persevere, then you end up getting to the point where your body is craving the good stuff, craving the stuff that will nurture it and take care of it. And you don't even want, like, everything tastes too sweet now because I've been cutting out the sugar, and
Right.
so
It's so true. It's so
it's a
true.
good thing that you and your husband are aligned on it too. I think that's rather huge for both of you.
I agree. I agree because I know there are some families where, the wife is and the husband isn't, or vice versa. And I can imagine that being a bit challenging. And I think if that was the case for us, I'd be like, well, just so you know, I'm not preparing any of your food. I mean, to be, it's interesting too, because I mean, our extended family, they're omnivores, right? So, I mean, I'm very grateful that, when we come to them, they're always accommodating for us. There's
Yeah.
always something for us. Or, being the, control freak that I am, I'll be like, oh, don't worry, I'll bring something. Like, I really
Right.
don't want to put people out. Like, I'll just be like, especially if plant-based is not part of your rotation and you're not familiar with cooking plant-based, like, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like it's around, and like it's just something that you have to adapt to, or what have you.
Yeah.
But I do think that because we are both aligned, it does make it a lot easier because we're not preparing
Huge.
separate meals. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking like I don't go to Costco often, but even at Costco, like, meat is really expensive, and it's kind of like, I don't know how families are doing it. And I just think about how we're dodging that bullet because we just don't buy any of it at all,
Yeah.
right? But
Do you grow
but
any
yeah,
of your own stuff?
what's that?
Do you grow any of your own stuff?
In the summertime, I do. I do. We have
Nice.
a little vegetable garden. I mean, it's
Nice.
nothing to write home about, but we do like zucchini, we do radish, we do peas, jalapenos, because I make some cowboy candy with that,
Nice.
tomatoes.
Yeah.
What else do we? Carrots. So we do a lot. Like, yeah, we do a lot of that, like, more rooty vegetables.
Yeah.
Some peppers occasionally. Tomatoes do really well in our garden.
Yeah.
Where we live, it's funny because our garden does get full sun, but we live in West Kelowna, so we're up on higher elevation than Kelowna. So it's hotter there than it is here. Like, our weather's a lot cooler. So I always have high hopes that we're going to have this like crazy amazing garden, and everything's going to be flourishing and it's all great, and then it's very wet here, or the temperature is not as warm. And so trying to navigate figuring out how to do that. But yeah, we do grow some food. And zucchini, I totally forgot about that, because that's like, I mean, everybody and their dog grows zucchini. I feel like that's like the one thing that if you don't know how to grow anything,
You can grow
do
zucchini.
Yeah.
So I think I like came across a meme that's just like, just so you know, everybody, when zucchini season comes, you're getting one, like it's like lock your windows in your car because it's zucchini season. You'll find one in
Yeah.
your car, your seat, or whatever, because people just
Yeah.
want to offload theirs. So yeah.
I will take them all.
Well, yeah.
I'll be in Kelowna beginning of June. I'll come to your house and I'll say, "Do you have any zucchini?" No.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I might have treats for you, but maybe not zucchini just
I
yet.
have no idea when zucchini season would be.
Zucchini, I think, is like typically like July,
Yeah.
mid-July. Depends on when you plant. Like, we plan
That
on
makes more
doing
sense.
May long weekend will be when we start planting our veggies
Nice.
and stuff like
Mm.
that. And then, yeah, I mean, zucchini grows pretty quickly. So I'd probably say like end of June, early July-ish.
Yeah.
So.
Right, that makes sense. Oh
Fun.
well, I'm
There
missing
you
out on
go.
the zucchini. Treats, okay.
So,
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about vegan baking. And like you said, there was a big transition for you when you used to bake quote unquote regular
Yeah.
bakes
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
transitioning to vegan. How did you make those changes? Did you try to adjust or rework your family favorite recipes, or did you start totally fresh with a new bunch and, just experimenting with new recipes, or how did you to start that journey in that
I
transition?
I definitely did exactly what you said, which was tried to convert my tried and true recipes, but with substitution. And then I realized this is impossible. Like it's just
Hard.
not possible. Like my vanilla cake, right off the bat, is 4 eggs and sugar, and you have to whip that until it's creamy and white before you add your next ingredients. So it's like you really cannot substitute that vegan style, even if you're using a faux egg or a flax egg, or even if you're using aquafaba, like it does not have the same structure as eggs. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to put that one to bed because it's just not going to happen. And so, yeah, I started looking at recipes that were available online.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, I started off with what I thought was good because I was like, oh, well, this is good. This is a vast improvement from my failures prior. And over time, I've just kind of been like, okay, well, what if I do this and this instead? What if I do half oil, half plant-based butter, as opposed to all one or the other? Because I find, doing this way makes the cake very greasy, or, it's very, or tastes very, not burnt, but tastes very browned or caramelized or what have you. So it was really at that point also a trial and error where I was like, I want a light, fluffy crumb. I needed to have some height. And so I was really digging back into like the science of baking. I was just doing a lot of research. I came across a really good cookbook that is called, it's the America's Test Kitchen vegan, or not vegan baking for everyone, but like vegan cooking for everyone is what it's called. And it's really cool because they talk about the science behind why they use certain plant-based milks for this particular recipe, and why they use oil versus plant-based butter, why they'll add yogurt instead of, dairy, or milk or what have you. And so that really helped teach me the foundation of vegan baking and understanding how to incorporate or replace or use certain, like sometimes you don't need an egg replacement in something because you've got a leavening agent in there. So the egg is really not, it's, to add moisture, which you can use like applesauce or flax seed for, or what have you. So it was really, again, it was a science. And I remember at the time, like at one point I did have a partnership with Basel because they're my favorite. And I was really grateful for that. But honestly, if they could just supply me forever with their one-to-one plant-based butter.
I love their
I
plant-based.
can't recommend.
They're so good.
So good.
I cannot recommend it enough. It is
I made
literally
croissants with it. I made gluten-free croissants.
Get out.
Yeah, it was insane.
That is amazing. That is
very
amazing.
excited.
Good for you. That makes
Thank
me
you.
that makes me a happy
Okay, good.
a happy non-ambassador, because I'm not one, but if I could be, I would be, only because it really does work well one-to-one for a butter replacement. So that didn't exist when I started doing my plant-based baking. So it was Earth Balance was a really big one, which I think to this day, a lot of other like plant-based bakers do use. I find it has an odd taste to it. And I find the taste transfers into the baking, which I don't like. But it had the ability to solidify. So like for a buttercream, for example, if you're doing an American buttercream, you could rely on that. But when Basel came around, that was definitely like the way to go. It was just, made life so much easier. I do my American buttercream, or sometimes I do like an ermine buttercream, which is really nice if you don't really care for the sweetness factor of an American buttercream. I find that, it's like I've got people who are in the sweet camp and they're like, give me the American buttercream where I just want it on a spoon. And then I've got another camp, which is like, oh my gosh, it's too sweet. So I kind of toggle between the two and do either an ermine but again, the butter component, it's just nice knowing that that's not going to melt on me, because some are coconut oil based. And we know that at room temperature, coconut oil just, starts to just melt.
Liquid.
So it was really, again, a lot of trial and error and just sort of going, oh, this new product came out, let me try it with this. Oh, this new product came out, let me try it with that. And then once things kind of felt like it was like leveling down to, okay, these products are now, mainstream. They're not a new thing that, that the market's just testing out. I was able to kind of tweak my recipes to be able to kind of have now a foundation of ones that I know I can go to. And also there's so many great recipe creators out there that are plant-based, and they have so many amazing recipes. And actually sometimes I would just lean into, okay, the dairy part's not the issue because I find I use soy milk in most of my baking because I find structurally it has a good percentage of fat, it's got a good percentage of protein, it behaves like dairy, so it works really well in a lot of baking. It's the egg that's usually the challenge. So I will look into, I will look into websites that just say eggless this, how do you make an eggless chocolate cake? How do you make an eggless whatever? And I find just if somebody's done that work for me, the dairy part I'm not worried about. I know the substitutions that work for me, but if they figured out how to, the proper amount of leavening agents or using yogurt or what have you to like help with moisture, then I'm golden. So it's been a huge, I mean, again, it's really just people who've paved the way to make the opportunity to bake plant-based a lot easier. The one thing I'm still trying to tackle is making croissants.
Oh, really?
I would love to go to Europe. I'd love to go to Paris and take like a cordon bleu class because they do have a plant-based program.
Oh, it would be so amazing.
That would be awesome.
They do. And I'm just like trying to convince my husband. I'll be like, so I'll be away for 3 months. Do you think you could hold down the fort?
Right?
Without me, and I will repay you with like copious trays of croissants.
Croissant.
It sounds like a good deal to me.
I think so.
I agree. So
you should totally go for it.
Podcast episode, just
was this the reason for the conversation that you're having about should
traveling solo
your spouse be able to travel on your own?
It wasn't, but it totally should have been. We were talking about how because my husband and I do go on trips without each other. He most recently, and it's not even like it's like a trip. Like I'm not saying he's going to Europe without me. He'll spend a weekend away with his friends, like he did the Sun Run last weekend or a couple weekends ago. So he went with a bunch of coworkers down to Vancouver and did his thing. And I'm like, that's cool. Like running is your jam. Love that for you. On the flip side, I actually went to New York one year because one of my favorite cookie decorators from Texas, she was hosting a class at New York Cake. Really wanted to learn her technique. So I said, hey, husband, I want to go to New York. And he totally thought he was going to be joining. He would be my plus one. He was like planning out his whole itinerary of what he was going to do while I was taking this workshop. And I was like, actually, I'm going to ask my sister if she wants to come and see if we can do a sister's trip. And he was like, oh, okay. But I was like, let's be real. Logistically at that time, it didn't make sense for us to both be away because with kids and schedules and stuff, we still had working, like our parents were still working parents at the time. So it's not really like we could be like, hey, we're leaving and like leave our kids to who we don't know.
Yeah.
Right. But all of that to say there was redemption because we did go on a New York trip together in 2023. We did have a couples trip. So I was like, okay. Cause he was like on me for a long time to be like, I can't believe you went there without me. So we did do a trip eventually, but yeah, I think maybe now I have to sell him on the idea of me going to Paris by myself.
Paris. Yeah.
That's a big
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. He's
and Paris on your own is so good. I actually did that a number of years ago. I spent 5 days in Paris all by myself.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what? It was amazing. And because you're not like tying them down to do all the stuff, like you could do all the stuff you want to do. And, being a baker, I wanted to check out every single baking supply store in Paris. And I did. Well, ones that I think I did anyway, in the main walkable area.
Right. Yeah. Oh, what a dream.
It was amazing, right? And you could do what you wanted to do and eat when you wanted to eat and check out all the different, take as much time as you want.
Yeah.
Just wandering through all the beautiful streets.
You're just on your own time, which is, it's glorious.
It's amazing. I took a few little courses while I was there as well. So it was awesome.
Oh, good.
Okay, well, now I've got somebody to like
pick her brain.
Compare to.
She did it.
You say she did it.
She did it. And
or what you could do, because my husband actually ended up joining me on the back end of my trip there. So
there you go. See,
well,
then maybe that's the sell. We'll see.
Yeah,
that's just go in advance.
It's just so nice as a mom to be able to be someone other than mom. I mean, even if you have your business, you have your work, that's just another like role that you're in. And it's so nice to just be like, I am just myself. I am in a place that I have always wanted to be, and I am doing the things that I want to do, and I don't have to think about work, and I don't have to think about schedules, and I don't have to
Mhm.
think about children. I can just do my own thing and really
100%.
fuel your soul is what you
It
need to do.
does, and it fills up your cup. It allows you to be a good partner. It allows you to be a good
Yes.
parent. I feel like we always have that. We carry the guilt no matter where we are.
Yes.
You're guilty when you're at
100%.
home with your kids. You're guilty when they go to bed. You're guilty if you go out for dinner. You're guilty if you're out of town. So really, you're going to carry that with you anyways. You may as well just be in a different country.
Yes.
Right?
Sure. Why not?
That's my
Baking at
Justin
It will be the
Bieber
Lakota's
moment.
same
fantastic.
Yeah,
regardless.
literally. So it's like there'll never be an opportunity or never be a moment where you're not thinking about, your family.
Yeah.
That's just like I say, that's just what's going to happen regardless.
Forever.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's
And
just
even when they leave and
yeah,
they're on their own and they're older and doing their own life, they're constantly there and you're constantly thinking about them and you're constantly trying to
exactly.
figure out what you can do to make their life a little bit easier or whatever, right?
They're always
It's
going
a
to be on your
constant
mind.
worry.
Like I say, so it's like, you know what? Let them be on your mind while you're sipping a cappuccino in
Yeah.
Paris, right? Like
Oh, I want to do that
100%.
so badly now. I love traveling
oh,
solo.
so do I.
I'm always like, "Oh, husband, I'm gonna go do this." And he's like, "Okay, well, I gotta work." I'm like, "I know, that's all good."
I
Have
know you're
fun.
not available,
Bye.
but I am. So
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, "Well, I get paid days off. You don't." He
there you
owns his
go.
own business, right? So
Right.
he's
Okay. Yeah. Well,
always
so we know
working.
that struggle.
Yeah, tough stuff,
Totally.
definitely.
Aw.
Do you do any kind of gluten-free baking at all, or are you just like, oh, you do? Okay.
I do. So I usually do I can accommodate gluten-free baking. And so typically what I do is if I know I have a gluten-free order, because of course my space is not a gluten-free space,
Yes.
I'll just kind of do a full kitchen turnover where I clean down the kitchen, make sure all of the appliances are clean, make sure all of my utensils are clean. Everything is like packaged separately and in separate parts of my kitchen. So, the chances of cross contamination are very, very minimal.
Mhm.
I'm very intentional about my gluten free baking. But yes, I do accommodate gluten free, which I think is so great because I feel like, um, I feel my heart goes out to gluten free folks. There's not a
Mhm.
whole lot that isn't that, or rather, I should say, there isn't a whole lot that's delicious in that category.
Yeah. And it's
you
the
know,
texture a
It's the
lot of times.
texture,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's
Yep.
learning how to work with, finding that perfect flour that,
Mhm.
your gluten-free blend that works really well with baking. And, I always think of it because, I even get approached just because of the nature of my baking. It's like, "Oh, is this low sugar?" And I'm like, "Honey, this is not low sugar. This is the most indulgent thing you can possibly have. It just doesn't have egg or dairy in it. But I can also do gluten-free, but just so you know, this has a lot of calories, okay?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we're not counting those when we're enjoying a sweet treat. Like, you deserve a sweet
Exactly.
treat, right?
You're probably using a lot of nuts and everything too as
I
well,
actually
right?
don't use any nuts unless
You
I'm making
don't.
macarons. Yeah, so unless
Mm.
I'm being intentional with, like, or if I'm offering, like, if I'm coming up with a menu and I'm like, "Oh, you know what? I wanna do, like, peanut butter cookie sandwiches or something like that," then I'll, like, explicitly say that there's peanuts or whatever.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like, I don't normally have nuts or peanuts in the kitchen unless somebody's requested something for that. Um, and that's not even something that, like, it's not even really intentional. It's just more like, even before I switched over to this type of baking, I wasn't really using a lot of nuts anyways.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
I guess it's nice for my nut-free friends or my nut-sensitive
Mhm.
friends that there really isn't anything except for, like I say, if I make macarons, I still use almond
Mhm.
flour.
Yeah.
But other than that, I try not to rely on using nuts just because I know that kind of limits people's options because they'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, yay, it's vegan," but oh no, there's nuts in it. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
fair.
One
It's
thing
amazing.
I will say though is, and this might be something you may or may not have noticed, but one thing that I do, even though my baking is vegan, I intentionally don't advertise it that way.
Mm.
I want to invite people who are omnivores to enjoy it, and I feel like that V word is very, very terrifying for a lot of people. In fact,
Mhm.
one time I did a little pop up at it was down in Cloverdale. I did it at the Heart. Shout out to Annie if you guys have ever been down at the Heart. She's not open anymore. But anyhow, I did a pop up there. And I had somebody come in, and I had pre-ordered labels. I ordered labels from Vistaprint, and it said the Cake Mama vegan sweets. And I didn't think anything of it because I was like, okay, well, this is what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's getting all excited, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, this cake jar looks delicious." It was like, I did a vanilla cake jar with Biscoff drizzle on the inside and vanilla buttercream. Like, I mean, what's not to like about that?
Right.
So she starts grabbing stuff, and then she takes a closer look at the label, and she's like, "Oh," she's like, "all of this stuff is vegan?" And I'm like, "Yes, but I assure you, it's
Tastes
delicious.
good.
Like, it tastes
You're
good. I
not going
swear.
to
It doesn't
know.
taste like cardboard. Okay, I promise you." And she was kind of like, you could tell she was almost kind of gutted, because she was like, everything does look really appetizing. But the fact that it said that everything was vegan, she put everything away and was like, "Oh, okay, thank you, and have a nice day." Yeah. And so anyhow, I just learned over time that, I usually will say like egg and dairy free. But I specifically don't use the word vegan or plant-based. Not that I'm trying to be misleading, but I'm just trying to be more inclusive. I feel like
Yeah,
my
that's
baking is
fair.
not just for vegans, and
Yeah.
it's for everybody. And if this was, your first uh step into like plant-based anything, I want it
Mm-hmm.
to be a good and positive experience. Do you know what I mean? And so I
Yeah.
feel like if people are scared by that word and it stops them from being able to try something, it's unfortunate. So I just
Yeah.
kind of, and then the bonus is like when people come up and say, "Hey, is anything here like dairy free or egg free?" And I'm like, "Well, it all is." And they're like, "You're
Yeah.
kidding."
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so it's like I kind of just sort of um tap into that market that way.
Yeah.
Because I also noticed that the demographic is very different too. People who are typically, I'm not a regular vegan. That's what I always call myself, because there's extreme vegans who are really into, everything is dye free, everything is literally whole foods. They don't like using, palm oils or seed oils or any oils or anything. So they really are looking for natural baking, which is not what I do. I just do like the egg and dairy free version of regular baking. So I found that sort of marketing it that way, where it's just like, treats. It is clear on my website. Like if you order something, it says everything's dairy free and egg free. And I don't do like, you can't request something to have dairy in it. Like I won't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been really interesting kind of navigating through this to kind of be like, find my niche of people who are like, "Oh yeah, cool. Like I totally don't care. I really enjoy your stuff. I keep coming back. I order for birthdays. I order for special occasions." And really just kind of like opening up that idea of like, "Hey, you know what? I know it's what you I know it's what you know, and I know it's what you think, but I'm trying to sort of break that barrier of being like, oh, this is specific to people who only avoid
Mm-hmm.
animal products." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so
No,
true.
that's
Like because I do a lot of allergen-free stuff, and every time I bring something to work, if I put on it gluten-free, dairy-free, or something along those lines,
Yeah.
people are much less likely to touch it. And
Right?
I'm like, "You like such and such is dairy-free, so I made sure to bring it. And this other person and this other person are gluten-free, so I made sure to bring it." So I've learned to just go to them and say, "Hey, you can have that stuff," and then not tell anybody else, and have them say, "This is so good," and then be like, "Oh, thanks. And it's gluten-free." And then they'll go,
What?
"What
Yeah.
is
yeah.
Yeah.
that?" Best
Yeah.
compliment ever.
Yeah.
It is. It is. And there's so many good things that you can make that are plant-based or don't have or they're eggless or they're dairy-free and people can't tell unless you tell them.
That's
They
right.
can't taste the difference.
Exactly.
And that is the absolute best. I do a lot of vegan and gluten-free as well because my niece is vegan and then my daughter-in-law is gluten-free. So
Okay.
so for family get-togethers, we're always, I make everything.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
there's vegan desserts, there's gluten-free desserts, there's two for ones, as I'll call it, where,
Yeah. Where it's
it's
vegan and
it's
gluten
vegan
free.
and
Yeah.
Everybody
gluten-free
can
We
have
love
it.
that.
and,
We
some
love that.
regular stuff. And honestly, like most of the vegan gluten-free stuff, they have first dibs on it, of course, because
Right.
the other
Because everybody
selections,
else has
but
their
people
options.
really enjoy those as well,
Yeah.
right? And
So great.
and I think you're totally right on not like necessarily marketing as plant-based or vegan because it does scare people off and it shouldn't.
Mhm. It
Yeah.
really shouldn't. There's really nothing to be afraid of, but I think
No.
it's just the way that it's just the way that we've been taught. It's the way that, and I mean, gosh, I remember when I switched over to a plant-based lifestyle, like, yeah, it became my personality. I feel like that's, unfortunately, that's kind of what happens when you are really, it's like people who start working out, right? It becomes their personality, and they, all they do is talk about how they exercise and how much protein they eat and all those kinds of good things. But I think it scares people away because they're just like, well, I'm not an extremist in that way. Like, I have no interest in changing my lifestyle. And the reality is I'm not asking you to. I'm just simply saying, hey, this just doesn't have those ingredients in it, but I can assure you that you'll still enjoy it. And I think that's the biggest joy that I have, is when people find out, oh my God, like I didn't know your stuff was vegan.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and go, can I order a cake for my birthday? And you're just like, oh, this is so nice. Like it's nice to build those connections. And I have to commend the both of you for being mindful in that way. And, like adding it to your baking and cooking, vocabulary, if you will, that it's just like, it's not scary. It can be delicious. And that's my hope for people down the road, like in the future, is to just be like, don't be so intimidated by the fact that it's something you may not be familiar with. Like, I can assure you that it's not as scary. In fact, like my mother-in-law, bless her heart, she's from Guatemala. She's, she makes amazing, she cooks. I mean, she can whip up something with 3 ingredients and it'll be the most delicious thing ever. When we went plant-based, she made it her mission to convert recipes that she used to make for us, but find plant-based alternatives. And I just think, that's really challenging for somebody at her age. My mom's just kind of like, just give me a list of the things you want and I'll stock our, whenever we come to visit, I'll stock it. Like, I'm not going to prepare it. And that's okay. Like, I kind of you have to meet people where they're at.
Yes.
But I think if, you're somebody who enjoys cooking and enjoys baking, it's, give a recipe a try. You'll be surprised as to how easy it really is. And just like how inclusive it can be, just really unbeknownst to you, right?
Yeah. And it's such a fun
absolutely.
challenge, really. I mean, if
It
it's
is.
the challenge of it that you're after, I mean, even just that is great. But then the bonus is that your friend who has not been able to eat your stuff can suddenly eat your stuff. And it's amazing.
Exactly. And it's just, yeah, it brings so much joy to me to know that, people who, like, I had at a market, I had someone who said, my son, he never gets to enjoy treats because he has a severe egg allergy. So, anytime there's, stuff in classrooms, like he can't have anything, and it's, very restrictive, and he's always so sad that he always has to have the plain looking cookie or the plain looking whatever. And so when she found out that everything that I make is eggless, she, took the time to send me an email to be like, you don't know how much joy you brought my son, who can finally have, a cake with icing on it and decorated the way he would want it for his birthday, things like that. And it's just, yeah, it's just such a cool feeling to be able to help people like that.
Right.
Yeah. And definitely for us, listening to you talk about how you do like a full turnover, clean of your kitchen, if you're going to be baking something gluten-free, and if you're going to be bringing any nuts in, you're just so mindful of that. I think
Mhm.
that is so important for your potential customers to know that these are things that you are thinking of all the time, so that they can trust that they're never going to buy something out of your kitchen that is unsafe for them.
Absolutely. And that it is an important thing to me, because I know how hard it is for people who have dietary issues to, find things that they can enjoy. And that's kind of just been my little my little side mission, which is, let's just make things that are pretty and delicious and things that you can enjoy and that you can rest easy knowing you can enjoy, without having to worry about cross-contamination or, things like that. So
Yeah.
Wonderful.
No, absolutely. That's so cool. And it's so nice that the for people that can't consume those things, that have allergies or challenges with eating that, that you offer those opportunities that are not only great for them, but everybody that they people purchase it for can also enjoy it,
Mhm.
and experience that joy of eating something, and looking at it too, because your creations are just so beautiful, and
Thank
the,
you.
it's all your stuff is so pretty all the time.
Thank you.
It's
I,
really
I
lovely.
really take pride in packaging things pretty. Like packaging is really important to me. The delivery and the presentations of things is really important to me. And I want everybody to have that kind of experience,
Mhm.
regardless of, what your dietary restriction is. I want everybody to be able to enjoy that, because I feel like, again, it's like, back in the day for me, it'd be like, oh, you go to a cafe and it's like that dry, crusty vegan thing in the back corner that nobody's looked
Yep.
at for a couple of days. And that's
Yeah.
the one thing you can buy. So I feel like it's kind of a nice treat to be able to get something that's beautifully packaged or beautifully decorated. Because it's a direct representation of like my passion, but also, knowing that the end user is going to enjoy and have a positive experience by purchasing something from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So,
very, very
so
cool.
important.
I love
You.
that. I love that.
And so for people who have not yet found you, not that they're going to find you through our podcast, because you sure have a lot of more followers than we do, but you're
Hey,
at
different niche. It's a bit of a
right,
different niche. So
definitely, yeah. So you're at the dot cake dot mama on Instagram.
yes, I
Yes.
am that on Instagram. I do have another Instagram account that focuses solely on my baking, and that is at Shop the Cake Mama, but no periods in between anything. It's all one
Okay.
word, and that's kind of where I share my weekly offerings. It's where I showcase my work.
Perfect.
It's where people can connect with me to be able to place orders and that kind of thing. And
Perfect.
it's been fun to be able to kind of showcase the two, because I kind of mixed the two at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I felt like my life was just too all over the place. I'm like, okay, this needs its own thing. And that's what I ended up doing. So yes, you
Perfect.
can find me at the Shop Cake Mama, or yeah, at the Shop Cake Mama, Shop the Cake Mama. Oh my gosh, can't talk anymore. Shop the Cake Mama for all of my baking treats. And then just for my lifestyle and every day-to-day kind of things, that's at the cake mama.
And your podcast is We Talk About Stuff and Things.
It is. We talk about stuff and things, which is so hilarious. Like people, they're like, how'd you come up with that ridiculous name? And it's because
It's perfect.
it is, because it really covers everything. But we had a conversation with the kids once, and something came up where, you know, my husband was like, if I had a store, I would call it Stuff and Things, and it would sell stuff and things, every single thing under the sun. It would sell that. And so now it's kind of a running thing in our house where we're like, well, what are you up to? Oh, stuff and things, stuff and things.
Uh,
So anyway, so I was just like, how fitting is it to just be like, we talk about stuff and things, because that's exactly what we're doing. So
That
exactly.
is awesome.
Perfect.
I love that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's talk about some other stuff and things. How about we play a little game of this or that?
Okay. I'm
All
excited.
right.
Yes.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay. So if you don't know how this goes, we just throw some things at you and you pick the first thing that resonates with you.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Christina, you want to start us off?
Sure thing. Number one, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay. And how do you have said coffee?
I have my coffee. I usually I make myself an Americano, and then I do a nice little, I call it a splash, but it's more like a sploosh of my Silk soy coffee creamer. Just the regular one that comes in the red carton, not too sweet, but it adds a nice little creamy factor to it. That's how I take my coffee.
Nice. Nice.
Mm. And do you just have your coffee in the morning, or are you like a coffee throughout the whole?
I'm actually kind of nursing through my like semi-cold coffee right now, but I usually have mine. Yeah, I usually have mine. I guess I would call it mid-morning, because I try to have a routine where I get up in the morning, I do my workout and get that out of the way. I'm really trying to, this perimenopause phase of life is really, something else,
Oh
right?
yeah,
So,
loving
I
it.
feel like we're all in that same little boat, right? So I'm really just trying to focus on, taking good care of myself, which I feel like is something
Good
that
plan.
neglected for the last 5-6 years. Post pandemic, I feel like I did all the wrong things. It's funny because you think back and you're going, gosh, if I had that kind of time again,
Mhm.
hindsight, right? You're just like, gosh, I don't know, like I probably would have set a world record for something. I have no idea.
Something.
I was drinking my sorrows away and eating my feelings. So
Those are the records we sent. We were
yeah.
the meme. We were the meme with like garbage day or recycling day with the crate of wine bottles.
Literally, no joke. I swear. I think in
Weekly.
1 year or like 1 quarter, I think we made about $70 in deposit, like return deposit from all of the booze that we either my husband and I drank or like that we invited because our neighbors were part of our little bubble. So
Yep.
we'd have like, oh, let's have a games night, who's supplying the alcohol this time? But
Fun.
but yeah, so anyhow, so I usually do my morning workout. I usually have something good to eat and then I'll have my coffee.
Yeah. You've earned it by that point.
Exactly. And I enjoy it. I don't really use it as my like caffeine boost, if you will. It's more like because I enjoy the taste
Yeah.
of coffee. So this is kind of around the time where, I'm answering emails and whatever, and I enjoy my cup of coffee. So
Sounds so
Nice.
good. It's a
yeah.
nice little morning routine that you have established for yourself, which is great.
Thank you. It's been
Yeah.
a labor of love. It's been months of getting used to that routine, but I made a promise to myself, so I've been
Good for you.
consistent. So
Good work. I'm high-fiving you. Yeah, good work.
thank you.
Okay, next question. Sweet or savory bakes?
Savory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a savory girl through and through, which is so funny because of course as a baker, how do you not? But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's because I'm around it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'm in the mood for, if I've got scraps, I'll be like, oh, you know what? This vanilla cake is really hitting the spot right now.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times I'm a savory gal. I'm a salty person. So I really enjoy, give me a pizza roll or, like a stuffed pastry of some kind with some sort of savory filling in it. That's really that's the dopamine hit for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we were talking about vegan cheese and how it didn't really exist when you first started transitioning into that plant-based lifestyle. What's your favorite go-to? Because there are so many choices out there right now. Do you have a couple that you really, really
Yeah,
enjoy?
my favorite right now is I really enjoy the Violife brand. Their Parmesan is incredible. It grates just like Parmesan. It's got that sharpness, that getting close to that kind of stinky cheese sort of smell. So I really enjoy that. Their feta is really nice. Although I do tend to make my own feta using I do a tofu feta, which I find is a bit more flavorful and a bit more nutrient dense than like a store-bought version. But their shredded cheeses and their slices are really nice. And actually, surprisingly, I've kind of for like my cheese shreds, if I'm making a pizza or if I'm doing nachos or that kind of thing, I've actually gone back to Daiya, which is like the OG vegan cheese, which initially was horrible.
Yeah.
I was just like, if that's our cheese option, then forget it. We'll just figure something else out. It was so bad, but actually they have changed their formulation. So now it's oat based, and it melts really well. So if you're doing like a nacho or you're doing a pizza, or if you're doing something that's going to have, if you're doing like a lasagna where you want that bubbly cheese on top, it melts really, really well. So those would be my two options. Like if you're doing like making a sandwich or grilled cheese, I'd say Violife, their cheese slices are really delicious. They've got a provolone style, which does have more of that depth and that flavor profile. And then for anything melty, you do the Daiya shreds with the oat based one. I don't know if it's available everywhere, but it seems to be these days. But those would be my two choices.
Cool.
It's amazing how far they've come.
Oh, right. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
And
I do like nut-based cheeses as well. Especially if they've been fermented. They do have like that really cheesy, tangy flavor. But those ones price point wise, like that's a treat. Like if my husband and I are gonna do like a little charcuterie night with some wine, then I'll splurge on but if it's like a regular Tuesday night and my kids, I'm like, no, we're not wasting the good cheese on you.
Yeah.
You can get the cheese shreds for $6. Okay. Like
you get
$14 on good cheese for us.
Yeah. Do you use spread them? The cashew. Oh, they're so good.
They're so good.
I love them.
Good.
That was my treat the other day.
If you haven't tried the Borson, the dairy-free.
How is that one?
That is delicious. That is delicious.
I love it.
Even my like my sister who's an omnivore, she'll buy that if it's available, just because she's like, it truly does taste just like close to texture wise. It's a little bit it's not as creamy, I guess. It's a little bit more
crumbly.
crumbly. Yeah,
grainy.
It's not grainy. It's
Okay.
still like, it still spreads nicely, but it's not as, well, I guess it's almost like Boursin is kind of chunky for lack of a better, like
Can be.
it is kind of crumbly, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
kind
guess,
of like a goat cheesy kind of,
yeah, it is kind of a goat
texture.
cheesy texture. So I would say it's about the same.
Okay.
But the chive, like the herbs, like
Yeah.
they really nailed it. So it's really nice for like a little spread if you got some crackers
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
Sounds
A
really
little vegan Danish too.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That would be good.
I would be down
Nice.
for that. That would be so good. Thanks for that tip.
That's what we're here for.
We got
Right?
the idea.
All right. Next one, chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla.
Yeah.
I'm a vanilla girly.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
have a place for chocolate, but honestly, like I just like I would eat a chocolate chip cookie. I would make chocolate chip cookie batter or dough and just like not put the chocolate chips in. Like that's how
Yeah.
much I like, it sounds crazy.
No, that's not. I actually have my go-to chocolate chip cookie recipe is never chocolate chips. It's always
Right?
dried cranberries or
Yeah.
it's dried blueberries or
Or maybe
it's
some nuts in there. Like, yeah, I love the base of it. I love, that brown sugary goodness. It
yeah.
tastes really nice. It's got a soft bite to it. The chocolate, like, I could do without it. I'm just
Yeah.
not, I don't crave chocolate. It's just not, it's not high on the list.
Right. And I'm just going to ask a question just for a
Yeah,
friend. But protein bars, like most of them have a chocolate coating and it's not even that good.
I
So
agree. I don't know what the deal is
why?
with that. I feel like they think coating it in chocolate just makes the whole thing taste better.
No,
But it
no.
depends on, well, no, because usually the chocolate they're putting on is like dark chocolate, which is a little bitter. So now you've got this like chalky texture in the middle and then a bitter coating on top. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I do
waxy
like
bitter
ones that are
coating.
like yogurt dipped, like the yogurt
Mhm.
dipped protein
Yes.
bars are nicer. Those are, they're a bit on the sweeter side. And it's like, it seems to be, I don't know, it seems like a thinner layer of a coating. So it's more tolerable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why they do that. It
I
just,
don't
Just
know either.
don't dip them.
I know.
Yeah,
I wish they wouldn't dip them.
Yeah.
But they
right?
seem to, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like it's like they think it's like, oh, well, then it's like a candy bar. Maybe it's like a
Yeah,
mental thing for
appetizing.
people. But then again, I guess for people who really enjoy chocolate, they're like, yes, thank
It
goodness
works.
there's chocolate over it.
And we're probably in the minority of,
Oh, I 100% agree
right?
with you. Everybody who's like, you don't like chocolate? Like what? And I'm like, no, it's not that I don't like chocolate. It's just not my go-to. Whereas like my
Yeah.
husband adores chocolate. He's like, do you
Yeah.
have any chocolate? I'm like, no, why? I don't care for chocolate. Like I'm not, if I'm going to the store and I'm picking myself a sweet, or not even a sweet treat, if I'm picking myself a treat, it's probably a bag of chips. It's not chocolate.
Mhm.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
me too. Chips or
Yep. Same.
cheesies or
Yeah,
something
I'm a
like that.
savory gal for sure.
Yeah. My I came into my kitchen the other day and I found one of my big container, like a by the sets of IKEA containers, right?
Yep.
So this green lid container, and I was like, wait a second, why is this on the counter? And I went and I looked in my baking supplies drawer, and it was my Calabo chocolate Colette container that
No.
was completely emptied by my husband, who just snacked on it.
He emptied it.
Does he not know how expensive that is? Does he not know how
Yeah.
expensive it is?
I'm
So
like, you're gonna have to replace that, you know? He's like, oh, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm like,
This
yeah,
isn't
no problem.
your like Western family semi-sweet baking chips here, okay? Like we're talking, this is the big leagues.
yeah,
Yeah.
my husband does the same thing though. Same exact, but he doesn't empty it.
He's like, but it
Oh,
tastes so good. I'm like,
But
yeah.
he'll go in and grab
I
a
wonder
handful.
why.
oh my gosh.
I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
that's like
Yeah.
$12.
It is. Yeah. You
Just
know
a
what
handful,
you know
yeah.
what you should do? You should fill another container just with like the cheapy stuff.
Yeah, I should.
And hide your Calabo. Don't leave that out.
And then he'll be like, it just doesn't taste as good as
Yeah,
it used
exactly.
to.
Where's that other stuff?
Where's that other good stuff? I was just, melt in your mouth so good.
Yeah, that was a fun
Uh,
surprise discovery,
yeah.
but he's so cute. So I
Yeah,
tried
so
to
you love him, you'll keep him,
I'll
right?
keep
Yeah.
him, but I had to
Yeah.
try to instill, make him really realize this is not a thing you can continue to do.
That's right. That's right.
All right, next question, Harry Potter or Star Wars?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one because I like both.
Mhm.
You're gonna make me choose?
Well,
Yep.
yesterday the choice would have been obvious, right?
Yeah, it would have been Star
Right?
Wars for sure.
Yesterday was May 4th
I
that
think
we're
there's a time
updated.
and place for both because I do enjoy Harry Potter because of the magical whimsy of it.
Mhm.
I really enjoy that. And I feel like Star Wars is, or sorry, Harry Potter is a great series to watch on like a cold and rainy day. Like it just
Mhm.
because it's, it's England and it's just, it's
It's the
foggy
atmosphere.
and yeah. So I'm definitely down for a marathon for Harry Potter. Oh my gosh, you guys, that's a really tough question.
Good job, Christina.
But yeah, that is a really good one. But I also am a Star Wars fan. So, okay. Well, I guess at the end of the day, if I had to choose like something that I would immediately want to watch, I'd probably say Harry Potter. So we'll go
Okay.
with Harry Potter.
All
Okay.
right.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And
Well thought out.
yeah, and part of that is because you have a little pop-up stand that you have at your own place
I
now. That's
do. Yes.
relatively new.
So
And
cool.
I love that you actually theme your weekend bakes to different things that are going on. So I know
Totally.
this last weekend you did like a
Yeah,
little
I did a
Star
Star
Warsy
Wars one.
themed one.
It's been really fun because it's connected me with the neighborhood. So like I have a little stand that I on every on the Saturdays I pop out some baked goods. Um and I kind of felt like, if I keep offering the same thing, people will be bored. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, been there, done that, might not be as enticed to show up. So I tried to do, well, I kind of polled my audience to say, okay, well, what kind of themes would you want to see? And this was something that I launched last fall. So kind of when the weather started to cool down a little bit. And I did Gilmore Girls one weekend. So it was all things Gilmore Girls theme. And I did
Mhm.
sugar cookies and scones named after characters and things like that.
Fun.
I've done a Harry Potter one, which was
Yeah.
really fun. I did little sorting hat sugar cookies. And so you would bite into it and it would be like whatever the
The
house
house
colors
you're in.
were. So you get a yellow or a green or red or um, blue. Lost the color there. And so this past weekend I did a Star Wars one and I did like choose your destiny cupcake. So inside the cupcake was either a red blob of icing or a green blob of icing. And if you got red, then you lean to the dark side. And if you got green, you lean to the light side. And it's just fun doing stuff like that, just getting creative. And it kind of has allowed me to test things out and just kind of
Mhm.
like, expand my menu to be like, hey, this introduces my work to just people from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it kind of, if things do really well, then, I add it to my menu to be like, hey, if you have a special occasion, you could order this there. So
Mhm.
it's been a great way to allow people to know what I'm capable of, but it's also allowing me to test what I'm capable of, and
Yeah.
like I say,
And
because
that's
I
fun.
just started making sourdough. So I mean, I don't know how bread makers do this, honestly, like make both. Like they obviously invest in a lot of equipment because I only have one Dutch oven. And so I'm like, how do you bake multiple loaves of sourdough? Like,
On baking steels.
yeah.
And then there are you can do an open bake sourdough too. So
Okay, I've never tried that because I've only ever done it in a Dutch oven and that's been successful. But I feel like I'm like, people want sourdough. I'm like, how the heck am I
yeah.
gonna like I gotta
Make
wake up
enough.
at 3 in the morning and because it takes like an hour to bake a
Yeah,
loaf, you
you
know?
need to connect. You need to connect with Larry Harris, who
Okay.
is our bread guy,
I'll put you
Okay.
in
and
touch with him.
he would be able to, yeah, and if you just probably connect up with him, I'm sure he'd be happy to
Oh
share
gosh,
some
that'd
of
be
his
great.
tips and tricks.
I
Because
love that we're
I've got
calling him
I've
our
got
bread guy.
oh, that's awesome. I've got two ovens, which is fantastic. So I can crank out, a decent amount of stuff, but there has been quite a request for bread. And I'm like,
Yeah.
gosh, I would love to be able to offer bread, but like I follow these other these bread bakers and they're like, yeah, they have these ginormous tubs of like sourdough starter and ginormous tubs of like their fermented dough. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I don't even know where the heck I would put that in this space. But
Mm-hmm.
it would be nice to be able to offer that. And again, croissants. So like that's kind of again, it's my opportunity to sort of be, it's kind of like my little test kitchen, if you will. It allows me to explore and experiment to be like, oh, people really like that. People did not
Mm-hmm.
like that. People kind of want me to lead. This is so funny because it's been a topic of conversation here, but people are like, would you make high protein desserts? Like, would you make a high protein
Yes.
donut? Would you make a high protein, bar or whatever? And so I would love to
Without
test that
chocolate.
out, right? And to kind of be able to be like, okay, let's try this recipe. If it's good, people like it, will they reorder, you know? And so it's a great way to kind of see how that, like, how to expand my services without it just being me eating all of this food by myself
Yeah.
or my family or my
Yeah.
neighbors who,
Yeah.
they love the baked goods, but I feel like if I'm at their door every other day being like, here, can you test these cupcakes? They'd be like, okay, just get out of my face. So,
Yeah.
so it's been a great opportunity to be able to try things out like that. And again, connect with the community, exposure, let them know that I exist. Cause of course I don't have a storefront. Right. And so, I've gone through the process of doing this, what I call like the legit way, as opposed to, my fellow bakers who, black market baking is what we call it. But, and so like, there's no, it's not my space is not open to the public. People can't just show up and be like, hi, I want to order this. Right. So
Yeah, can't browse.
yeah, exactly. And so this was kind of my way of being like, hey, these are my offerings for this weekend. Pop on by if you want to come. And it'll be interesting to see what it'll be like in the summer, because of course it's hot, and I don't know that I'll be able to continue it through the summer. We might have to shift to like a pre-order model to make things happen. I did buy a little fridge, but a mini fridge is so tiny. Like there's only so many things you can fit in there without basically having to stand there and be like, oh, it's all empty. Okay. I just spilled my coffee. I got really passionate about this, guys.
You did.
I see that.
How much cold coffee is everywhere now?
Oh my gosh. As long as it's not getting into my laptop, we'll be good. Thankfully I have a towel, so we should be okay. But anyhow, it's just a nice way to we'll see how it goes, if I can continue it, or if it's something that I have to take a break on and say, you know what, we'll pick this back up when the weather cools down, and I'll have the summer to be an opportunity for me to just kind of connect with my wholesalers and offer stuff in that way. So it's fun.
Good that you have
That's a
the
good way of doing it.
opportunity to try different things out, right?
Yeah. And again, like I say, it just means like, and the way I price things is not, like it wouldn't be the same way that I would price it like in a traditional retail setting. Pardon me as I'm like cleaning my spilled coffee here.
Do you want to take a break?
Do you
need a few moments?
No, it's okay.
You're a good multitasker.
Right? Like you have to be as a mother.
And a baker.
I just like, I make it so that it moves. And, it's like, again, it's kind of my introductory pricing to say, hey, you know what, these are the things that I'm capable of, and I want you to try it, obviously so that I can profit a little bit off of my work, but I want it to be accessible, because I know baking these days, well, I know, and the cost of food is expensive. And, I'm finding just talking to my local baking community, people are like, people aren't spending money the same way. They're not really investing in custom anymore because it's very costly. And so I'm just trying to find new ways to be able to connect with the community, make things accessible, sneak in that little plant-based, little mission of mine, and, have fun while I'm doing it. So yeah.
All right. We've got another fun one here for you.
I like this one a lot.
Music. What do you vibe to when you're baking? Do you usually go to the 80s, the 90s, or today's hits?
Oh, definitely 80s and 90s for sure. For sure. I actually
have to choose just one.
Oh, I have to choose 90s. One? Oh, well, the 90s for sure. 90s. Yeah. That's probably my staple. I'm a big like R&B fan. Like they don't make R&B the way they used to. Do I sound like an old person now because
it's all good. I get it.
But, I vibe to all of that. It puts me in a good mood. It's, it's great rhythm. It just, like I'm in the zone. I'll sing along, and it just helps me motor through the work that I have to do in that day. So yeah, definitely. That would be probably my number one. Yeah. My nice.
Sounds like so much fun.
It is. It's so much fun. I'm just like, gosh, if I had employees, we'd have a great time. But at the same time, I'm almost happy that I'm a party of one, because things can get kind of crazy in this kitchen with my like dancing to myself. And
that's awesome.
To be a fly.
That's awesome.
Right? Oh yeah. I should record myself someday.
I think everybody would be enjoying
for sure.
that.
Down for that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so too. Could be a whole other Instagram handle.
Series, dancing in the kitchen, and it's like
the dancing mama,
doing my dancing cake mama. My old Backstreet Boys dance routines while I'm like whisking doing my macronage.
Yes.
There you go.
The
To the
baking is just
beach.
interrupting the dancing.
Exactly.
Okay, citrus or berry fruits?
Berry fruits, 100%. Yeah.
That was an easy one.
Yeah. I'm not a big, I like citrus, but when I think of candy, like we were just having this conversation about Skittles the other day, and I'm like, why? Like 3 out of the 6 flavors in there is citrus. It's
Yeah.
lemon, orange, and lime. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
just rude. Apparently the green used to be green apple.
Once upon a time,
and then they switched it back to lime. I'm like, why do we need all 3 citrus flavors in this? Like, I feel like you could share the love a little bit. So
Yeah.
anyways, that's how I feel. I feel very strongly about citrus. I enjoy it. There's a time and place for them, but berries all the way.
Berries
they
all the
have
way.
a
Do you have a
berry
favorite berry?
flavored Skittles. They
I
have
know.
the whole
I
pack
know.
is berries.
I know. That's usually the one I'll get if I do go for Skittles. Like none of this original flavor. I'm like, there's too few options for me there.
Meanwhile, I just love the orange ones. I save the orange ones for last. They're my favorite.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Well, there
Okay,
you go. This could be a good partnership.
I was like, I'll save all my oranges for you if you'll save me your reds and purples and blue, I guess is what
I do like the reds, but I don't care for the purples.
Okay, I'll take your purples then. Okay. We'll trade orange and purple.
Good. Excellent.
My favorite berry, I would say, is probably a strawberry. I'm a big strawberry gal. Anything strawberry flavor, that's usually what I'll lean to if there's like a fruit flavor. It's just, It's
okay,
easy.
so once upon a time when you would have had Neapolitan ice cream was when we did it, it came in like a stripe of brown, a stripe of white, and a stripe of pink, and we would always just eat all the brown, but you would have eaten all the white and the pink.
You're right. I totally would have. In fact, back in the day, I would actually take all of it because I would just then, because chocolate wasn't my favorite, but I knew I'd get in trouble if I just ate all of the strawberry and the vanilla. So I would take it together. And then when I would eat it, I'd be like, okay, chocolate, it has to be like chocolate and vanilla together just to kind of like dilute the chocolate.
Temper it. Yeah.
And then the vanilla and strawberry.
And the vanilla and strawberry together. So
nice.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if I had any strawberry or vanilla in it, I would mix it all really well with the chocolate so that it all just tasted like chocolate.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
And I used to just take the vanilla.
Why not just get like chocolate ice cream then?
Well, my parents were the ones.
Oh, they were Neapolitan.
This is once upon a time. I don't buy Neapolitan ice cream because there's
Can you buy Neapolitan ice cream still?
I think you can, but I think it comes like in the big, like the big ice cream pail.
It's all
like, I don't think you can buy it in the,
it's swirled together.
Yeah, it is. It's not like I feel like when we were in the carton, we could like scoop each row.
Yes,
but if it comes in the tub, I think it's all just kind of swirled in there. So.
It is. Well, Christina does not like this at all.
She's like, no,
I do not like that idea.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I'm sure there are lots of people out there who do. And that's okay too.
And that's okay. Exactly. There's something
okay too. All right. Cupcakes or cakes?
Oh, like to eat or to decorate or to
both?
Make?
You could answer. Yeah, whichever way you want to do it. Do you prefer making cupcakes over cakes or cakes over cupcakes?
Cupcakes are easy. So I probably I like to lean into whatever is easiest. So I would definitely say cupcakes. But cakes have a place. But again, if I have to answer, I would say probably cupcakes because that's just easy to whistle off.
Portable.
People are always like, "Oh, can you make a bunch of cupcakes or is that too much?" I'm like, "Cupcakes, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
make you a ton of cupcakes."
Cake, you're like, "Oh, well, now I gotta fill it. I gotta crumb coat it. I gotta refrigerate it. I gotta add a coat." Like you're adding layers, and there's a lot of chilling, and and then you've got to think about how you're decorating it. And I mean, I used to be a big fondant fan. Like I in my early days of baking, I always used fondant because I didn't know how to properly like smooth buttercream. No idea how to do it. So I was like, the secret to that is just cover everything in fondant. So that's what I did. And now I'm like, I stay the furthest away from fondant. Nobody likes it.
My niece does.
Niece does.
Oh, really? Wow. She is a rare one. That's for sure.
Well, my great niece, actually.
She's
my great niece.
Okay.
So, yeah, she's 17. Well, she'll be 17 this year. Yeah.
Okay. Totally fair. So I'll do like little mini not figurines, I'd say just like little add-ons that are fondant. Like I don't mind doing little things like that, but now I'm like buttercream all the way. Buttercream, classic designs, really, really simple, minimalistic. That's kind of like where I like to hover. I have a fellow baker friend in Kelowna who she has a storefront bakery. Her and I actually used to just like we did the home kitchen thing together. And then she moved on to opening up a storefront. And she's so good at like sculpting things and like that's her.
Is that Cindy?
Cindy, yeah.
Yeah, she is fantastic.
She's so great. Love Cindy. So she's the queen of building beautiful cakes with fondant and sculptures and stuff. So when people ask me for that, I'm like, you know what? I don't do that, but I know somebody who does and who loves it. And I am at that point now in my baking career where I used to want to do it all. And now I'm like, nope, that's not what, brings me joy. I like doing things that bring me joy. And I'm happy to refer you to somebody who can do that and do it well, So yeah.
Perfect.
All
right. Weight training or Pilates?
Oh, you guys, seriously? No, I will say weight training for sure. And I say that because I'm trying to grow that muscle, Pilates is great and Pilates is good for like elongation and stretch. And, I haven't done Legree. I don't know if there's a Legree near you guys or if you've heard of Legree Pilates. I heard that is like a butt kicker and you leave shaking, like your body is completely quivering from that. They just opened up a studio here and I'm very curious to try. I have a neighbor who goes and she's like, hey, you have to come with me next time. She's like, it'll be the best workout of your life. But for now, I would say definitely strength training. I do enjoy it. There's something so satisfying about, challenging yourself. I'm fortunate that I've kind of built a little mini home gym. So I've been able to do a lot of my exercises at home and, just being able to kind of progress every week to be like, hey, you know what? Like you were at this weight last week. Let's try going a little heavier. And like to get to a point where you're like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. I can't believe that I can lift this much more, for me to lift a bag of flour, I can lift 2 bags of flour. And like, I'm just thinking about all those like mobility things. And it's kind of weird to think about that. Cause I'm just like, not in denial that I'm in my 40s, but I'm just kind of like, no, I'm still able and I want to still be able as I age. And I feel like strength training and like, that really improves like your core and like your
and it's really good for preventing osteoporosis.
Well, exactly. So I'm just really trying to I'm thinking about today me, but I'm also thinking about future me. And like if I'm putting in the work now, it's only going to keep it'll I'm able to stay consistent as opposed to starting from scratch. So I definitely recommend. I would, if somebody was like, which do I start with? I'd be like, well, do strength training. I feel like you'll see results. You'll see results more strength training than you would just doing Pilates.
Yeah. And that's encouraging because it keeps you going.
It does. And it's like,
it is both of those things you can do well into your 70s, 80s, even 90s as well, which is amazing.
Absolutely. And even just to talk on Pilates, because even though I said weight training is my favorite, like Pilates is really great for flexibility and like, it's got my body moving in ways that I didn't think I could. My core is a lot stronger because I do Pilates. So it does have its pluses and, benefit. It does have it. Well, they both have their benefits. But I feel like you'd have to be really devoted to being like a 5-day-a-weeker for Pilates to be able to really see those results if you're looking for results rather. But, training is something that, you can build over time and you really will see those results just by, how well you can lift things.
No, absolutely. So very cool. And it's about moving your body, right? Regardless of what you do, it's just about that movement of body and
everything is good as long as you are moving your body. I recently I invested in a weighted vest. I'm one of those girls now. I walk with it, and walking is just so it's such an underrated thing to do. But if you aren't already walking for at least 30 minutes a day, get that into your routine somehow, because it is such a great way to move your body. And especially if you are interested in doing the weighted vest, it does help elevate your heart rate a little bit, but it also helps with, osteoporosis in the future, maintaining muscle mass and all that kind of thing. So any kind of movement is good, even if it's just something as simple as walking. I endorse it all. I encourage it all.
And there's lots of great podcasts to listen to while you walk.
Exactly.
Or
Case in
music.
point. Case in
Or
point.
music.
Yeah.
Yep. 90s music. Yeah, you can take
That's
it.
right.
Early
Fantastic.
morning.
All right. Early
Hey,
morning or
hey.
late night bakes?
You just stole Lisa's
All
question.
good.
Pardon?
I said you just stole Lisa's question because she just gave you a look there.
No,
She's
I'm
like,
the one. No,
no.
you're
Was
right.
it?
It was
No,
like
she
the
right.
first
Okay.
Question.
But I was like, oh, oops. Yeah, no, I was offended. And then I was like, no, I wasn't
And then
really
you
offended.
redacted your
And then I was like,
offense.
never
Yeah.
mind. Not my question.
It's like, I thought you asked the weight training question.
I did because I almost said patates because it's there was this a little spelling error that you fixed, but it says
I
patates
know.
instead
I
of
know.
Pilates.
she knew it was
I couldn't spell Pilates for some reason.
This person who goes to Pilates like 5 days a week could not spell Pilates. But
It's not about how you
Or
spell it.
I go
It's if you
actually
go.
right now I'm going 3 days a week because I've
Oh,
got
good
weight
for
training that I do in
you.
between now.
There you go. So I do the like I've taken a little break from Pilates, but I was doing the same thing except in reverse. So I do 3 days a week of weight training. I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then my Tuesday, Thursdays are just my like some kind of cardio kind of day. So I would do my Pilates on that day, but good for you.
so
That's
proud
awesome.
of you guys.
Okay, so early morning,
gonna
early
get you.
night.
Yeah.
Honestly, I am
Or
built
bakes.
for evening. I'm an evening person. It's just, you know what? It's just the way my life has gone in terms of like being a parent, raising kids. My husband and I switched off work schedule wise. So he was working he's working days. I was working evenings. And I think my body is just built for that. So as much as I dislike doing late night bakes, it doesn't happen as often anymore now that I do have like my kids are in school, so I can be in the kitchen during the day and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, because my body is conditioned to evening, I'm the most productive after 3 p.m. I'm like, let's get going. And I can go, I'll break for dinner. And then I'll, if I allowed myself, I'd probably be baking until like 2 a.m, which is the worst because then you go to bed and have to get up. It's just it's not conducive anymore. But I am more of a natural night owl, and I have to kind of train myself to get up. Like I try to get up early in the morning just so I can get that exercise thing out of the way. Because what life has taught me is if I make a deal with myself and say, hey, sleep in, but then, exercise in the afternoon, it's not going to happen. My non-negotiables, get it done in the morning, shower, get your day started. And that way you don't even have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And
you're off on the right foot.
Yeah, exactly. It does set good intentions for the rest of the day if you've got that workout in, but it's also just not sitting, over my head being like, you haven't done it yet. Are you going to do it? And like 9 times out of 10, I end up not doing it just because I'm like, I'm too busy. I knew I shouldn't have done this. And, I end up in that position. So definitely a night owl, but don't want to be and trying not to be. So
fair.
Very fair. All right. So this last question is we consider it to be the most important question. If you have ever watched the Great Canadian Baking Show, this is the question that gets asked of everybody. It's a large controversy, and we are on either side of it. Butter tarts, raisins or no raisins?
No raisins.
Yes.
No raisins.
Absolutely. I knew I liked you, Jzabela.
Absolutely no. No. Into the trash can. Do not even look at them.
It's that bad, hey?
It's that bad. Listen, the only place raisins have for me personally is like an oatmeal raisin cookie. That's the only time I'll eat raisins in a baked good. If they're hiding in a bun, like even like panettone or whatever, like any kind of like if I get a freaking little raisin in there, it's ruined me. It's the texture.
You're done.
A cranberry is drier. So I find, I like the texture of a cranberry.
Yeah.
But I don't like, there's too much moisture in a raisin. So good. It's kind of got that like sluggy, juice.
Sluggy?
Yeah.
Did you say sluggy?
I said sluggy.
It is. It is. I totally That's
You know,
exactly what
right?
it is for me too.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
extra sweetness of a raisin, you just don't need it.
No, you don't need it. And so like I said, if it's in an oatmeal raisin cookie, I don't
Yeah.
mind it because I find the chewiness, like I don't know, I guess it's just because of the way that it's
Balance.
baked. It
Yeah.
is balanced in that way. But absolutely not when it comes to butter tarts. Butter tarts
Yeah.
have to be sans raisins. That's just the way to go.
All
And if
right.
it's in
Well,
there, watch out because I'll probably eat the whole pan of them because I love butter tarts. They're so good.
well, you've kept Christina happy.
Yes.
You got
Yay! Sorry,
no
Lisa.
resting judgment face coming.
There's, you know what? It's like the cilantro question,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, it
You
is.
love cilantro. Do you not love cilantro? Yeah, see, you like cilantro. So I am please only put one tiny little leaf of cilantro in my salsa or my chimichurri or whatever. It's not that I have that soapy
Isn't
flavor.
chimichurri mostly cilantro?
Yeah, it is. That's
Yeah,
why
I was gonna say, I'm like,
it is. So needless to say, I won't have chimichurri on top of anything because
Right.
I'm just not a big cilantro fan. I can appreciate what it lends to like a salsa fresca or pico de gallo kind of thing. Like, and I will put it in those if I make it, but
Yeah.
no joke, like out of the whole bush, I'm taking like 2 stems and I'm like
oh,
mincing it.
I think that's unusual to actually take a little bit because I think it's like my
It's like
husband is
all or
pretty,
nothing kind of thing.
yeah, if it's in there, he's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I
You
mean,
know
to
what's
him
so
it tastes
funny?
like soap, right?
Whenever I go to Earl's, my usual go-to there is their Hunan Kung Pao, which is they have a plant-based version. It's made with crispy tofu, and then instead of the noodles, they do rice.
Mm.
And I always forget to tell them two things. One, no celery, because I also they're very like celery and cilantro are very similar in terms of their like pungentness.
mm.
I
Mm.
always forget to say no celery and no cilantro. So then I bring it comes to the table and I'm like, so there I am like forking away
Picking it up.
all of the cilantro. But
Um,
but yeah, so I feel like the raisins debate is kind of similar to the
It is.
cilantro one. I'm not
Yeah.
an all or nothing person. I can, like I said, I can appreciate what it adds to a dish.
Yeah.
But like if something's got it all sprinkled on top, I'm just like, why did you go and ruin this? Like why do that?
Right. Noted.
I'm like, give me all of the
Is that
cilantro. I'll
right?
take
Hey,
extra. And
good
I'll
for
actually
you.
often order if something comes with cilantro, I'll just go, can
Extra.
I get some extra cilantro
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
And that's what I
Love
find
it.
so fascinating about people's palates, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just something as simple as that just goes to show that we're all so different
Mm.
and we're all not going to like the same thing and we just have to like embrace the fact that we're just so unique in that way, you
Right.
know?
What I was just thinking is how interesting it is that when we find something that we have in common, like we have throughout this entire discussion, we found lots of things we have in common and we get so excited about it.
Mhm.
But then we also get just as excited about the different things.
Exactly. It's like I
It's
love
really
that for you.
interesting.
I love that you love cilantro. Like I think that's fantastic. Yeah, but you now know that if we were to ever, sit at a lunch table together,
Yeah.
you might remember to remind me to tell the server, please no
Yes.
cilantro.
No
No
cilantro,
cilantro,
no
no
celery.
celery.
Or you might be so kind as to just pick off the cilantro off my dish before I start it and enjoy all of that goodness to yourself, which
I'd
I'd
be
be
very
so happy
happy
to
to share.
share.
Totally.
So
And I'll eat all the raisins because
there
for
you
some
go.
reason I like
We
them
Perfect.
can
in
give you all the
butter
You know
raisins.
tarts.
what's also the worst is when there's raisins hidden in cinnamon buns. Like who does that?
Yeah, no, that
Oh,
makes
I
Does
no sense.
know. So wrong. Or a carrot
so wrong.
cake.
Okay, yeah, thank you. If you're gonna do something hidden something, make it be walnuts and carrot cake, but not raisins. Just no.
I don't want
Raisins
nuts
have no
either.
place in baked goods. Okay, they just don't.
Yeah. Cinnamon
Except
raisin
for
bread.
oatmeal
I'll take
raisin
them
cookies.
or bagels. I'll do
Okay,
bagels,
that's
cinnamon
fair.
raisin bread, and oatmeal raisin cookies.
Yeah, but again, I feel like that's a texture thing. It's a little different than
Yeah.
like like it's the texture, right? Because it's like those things are a little bit more dense as
Mhm.
opposed to like, if you
Yeah.
have it in a cake, you're like, this is like so moist and soft. And then like, what
Ugh.
what did I just bite into in my mouth? Yeah.
Oh, a cake with raisins in it.
Oh
Ugh.
no,
Yeah,
no,
no.
no. Okay.
No.
No, we're all in agreement there.
No.
Exactly.
Well, Isabella, thank you so much for joining us today. And before we say goodbye, do you have a baking scrap that you could give to our listeners? So a tip or a trick about baking?
Oh gosh. That is a really good question. Well, I suppose I can lean into a baked good or a vegan baked good because that's kind of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on aquafaba. Don't sleep on it. If you haven't used it yet for your egg white substitution or to add more height to your cakes or to make meringues with or a pavlova with, I encourage playing around with it. Just grab yourself a can of aquafaba or a can of chickpeas. It's got, well, you can use other beans, but I find chickpeas are the best and the most neutral tasting after you whipped it.
Right.
But their texture, like once you've whipped it with some sugar and a little bit of cream of tartar, it is so light and fluffy, and a little bit of vanilla extract in there, and it will just like, it is such an amazing.
It's so fascinating.
It's like
It
liquid
is.
gold. That's what I call
It's
it. I use it in
it's
my royal icing instead of using egg whites. And it's, in fact, I know quite a few cookie decorators that just do the aquafaba way as opposed to using egg whites, just because the cost of eggs are really high right now.
Yeah.
And it yields like an even, it's a great consistency every single time. So that would be my hot tip, is try playing around with the
Aquafaba.
liquid from a can of chickpeas. You'd be surprised with what you can come up with using that.
It's magic. It really is. It's pure magic. It's crazy.
Pure magic.
It is amazing.
Have you ever tried an angel food cake with aquafaba?
I haven't, and the only reason why I haven't is I don't have an appropriate pan, because I just don't like angel food cake's not something that I even made before so I need to get a nice bundt, like a proper angel food cake pan, because I feel like that's crucial to being able to make it
fair
properly.
Yeah.
But it's add that to the list of things that I want to try, and I'll definitely report back if it's successful. But I've heard things, like there are recipes out there that say that they use aquafaba in place of the egg whites, and it does cook really well. So
I'll give that. I think I should try that out, actually.
Yeah, and it's great because it just folds into your batter really nicely. I have used aquafaba in just in baked goods in general, to do some of my cake bases as the egg substitute, and it does such a good job. And really, you don't need much, but it does really well, and it adds a little bit more stability and a bit more of that rise, a bit more of that fluffiness texture to your cakes. Because vegan cakes, if you're not experienced, they tend to be lean on the denser side if you don't haven't worked with it. But adding the aquafaba to it is definitely something that helps with that. So highly recommend.
How about, have you done, so before we let you go, I'm just curious, choux pastry. Have you tried choux pastry?
I have, yes. And that is, again, using an aquafaba as opposed to, because obviously you're whisking eggs in at some point. So you would use your aquafaba in place of that. Yeah. And then it yields like a really nice, I did these eclairs. It's been a while, but I've done like little eclairs with it.
Yeah.
And it comes out really nicely. They're,
perfect.
Neutral flavor, which is great, because that's what you want out of a choux pastry. But aquafaba is like the secret. That's the secret for anything that you want that's airy. Anything that has the air pockets in there, you want to be using that as your substitute for sure.
Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant.
Great tip.
I've learned so much today. Thank you.
I'm so glad. Well, thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun. The time flies so fast. My gosh.
It really does. It's amazing how fast this time has gone.
Yeah, truly.
Thank you very much for joining us. I might just stop by your micro bakery when I'm in Kelowna.
Oh, please let me know if you guys are coming by. I'd love to treat you to some plant-based goodies so you can experience it and share a review maybe, and let others know that they don't have to be afraid.
For sure. Well, I am going to get in touch with you definitely, because one of my really good friends who lives in Kelowna, that's why I asked you about your gluten-free. She can't have gluten, and all these other things. So would be kind of fun.
If I do my weekend, when I do my little weekend offerings, there's always one or two options that are gluten-free, just because there are quite a few people in the neighborhood that are gluten-free. So I like to be accommodating and, be as inclusive as I possibly can be. And so just to be able to have those things, and I'll poll them too. I'll be like, hey guys, what do you guys want? What are you in the mood for this week?
I love it.
Just so it's not the same thing every single time, because of course, the offerings in the other direction are usually about more abundant. And because I do what I do to prep for gluten-free, I try to be a bit more mindful
of course,
when preparing that. So I'm like, what are you guys in the mood for? You guys want cake cups? You guys want cupcakes? You want a mini cake? Do you guys want sugar cookies? What do you guys want? want. And
Love it.
it's nice to be able to accommodate to the group of people who need that in their lives.
I'm so glad that you do. So,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
coming and chatting with
Thank
us.
you for having me. I wish you guys all the best with
Thank you.
this
And you as
continuing
well.
podcast. Thank you. It's yeah, this is fun. It's fun
It's
talking to
really fun.
people. It's fun connecting with others.
It really is.
Maybe one of these days I'll have you guys on as guests on our podcast. We haven't gotten that far on figuring out how to add extra people.
We would be
But we'll figure that
honored.
out. And
Well,
we can talk
we'd
all
be
things
all into that. We could certainly talk about stuff and things.
stuff and things. Perfect. Perfect. That's the only criteria is really if you're able to do that. So
Do that. Oh, definitely we
I
can do
love it.
that.
right
Thanks
on.
so much,
Thank you
Isabella. We'll
so
talk with you
much.
again soon.
Thanks, Isabella.
Bye. See
Bye.
ya. Bye.
Bye. That was so much fun. I had not heard of Isabella before you mentioned her and brought her up, and then I started following her. And boy, I felt like she can carry a whole conversation because she's just so bubbly and so
Mhm.
fun.
Mhm.
And I was just like, oh, I just love you.
Yes. Isn't she fabulous? And I
She is.
love that her and her husband have just started this new podcast. We talk about stuff and things, which is just perfect. I love how they've brought that, a little saying that was important to them
Yeah,
or was their saying. And
their
then
little sneaky thing, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And now it's
Catchphrase.
a real thing for them, right? And
Yeah.
so that's very, very cool. So
And it's fun to listen to. The banter between them is really fun.
I know it's like you're in their living room when they're
Yeah,
having a
exactly.
conversation, right?
Yeah.
About
I can't imagine doing a podcast with my husband.
I don't know. I don't know if my husband would be that terribly keen on doing a podcast either.
No, it would be
But
interesting to see how long that would last for either one of us.
but it works for them, and I'm
Yes.
thrilled for them, and I'm thrilled for us that we had that opportunity to have such a wonderful, wholesome, inspiring conversation with Isabella.
Yes, and to hear her whole story and the whole moving toward plant-based and how her life and the life of her family have adapted and changed and her baking has changed. It's been really interesting. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was a great conversation. I'm really glad we had it. So thank you for introducing me to her.
Hey, that's what it's all about. It's about building the community, right? And
Yeah.
bringing more people into the space and telling their stories and having that coffee chat and just going a little bit more in depth with who they are as a person, what makes them tick, and what makes them so special.
Yeah,
And
she's pretty special.
she really, really is, right?
Yeah.
Lots of love for you, Isabella.
Lots of love for Isabella. And hopefully everybody who's watching this will go follow her. She's the Cake Mama on
Yes.
Instagram.
the.cake.mama and then
Thank you.
shop the cake mama. And also don't forget their podcast. We talk about stuff and things.
Go check it out. And thank you for being here with us, everybody. Hopefully I'm gonna feel a little less sick soon. I'll go have some echinacea or something.
Good plan, my friend. Good
Thank
plan.
you. Thanks, buddy. And we'll talk to all of you soon. Happy
Sounds good.
baking.
Happy baking, everyone.